What's up, everybody? Thanks for checking us on out. Tobin here with you. It was funny today on the radio show. Somebody texted into the program, and they were like, hey, Tobin, drum up some Heat news, dude. Most relevant team here in South Florida. And I didn't really have much for him because I did actually try this move the other day. I was like, there is nothing like Heat. It's so quiet right now. You got, training camps about 20 days away. Media days about 20 days away. So, I don't know what this individual was expecting me to get to. I did have one of my rascally theories where I was like, Jimmy Butler's in Paris, Tyler Hero's in Paris, no Paris workout together. Is that a thing? I don't know if it's a thing. It could be something, could be nothing. Maybe they were just busy and they couldn't get croissants together. Maybe they hate each other's guts. Who knows? I think it's all fine. But yeah, it really is like, can we drum up any Heat news season? There's not much that you can get to. Now, did Bam Adebayo go to Vegas to work out with Kyle Lowry? Yes, he did. Did we get a Paris workout with Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero together? Not according to Instagram. And if it's not on Instagram, did it happen at all? I don't really know. But there's nothing really there. And then I was like, well, I don't think I've seen the Heat really tweet about Tim Hardaway this week, who's going into the Hall of Fame. Why is that? Are they saving it? Maybe they're just saving it for the lead-in into the weekend. Maybe I should check it right now just to make sure I'm not even outdated on this as of this recording, which is about, 10 or so in the morning on a Thursday. But as of Thursday morning, no tweets about Tim Hardaway going to the Hall of Fame. Is there a riffy riff because he's going in with basically every representation of his basketball career except for the Miami Heat? We could drum up that. That could be a thing. I don't know. Or we could just ignore all of that because it is quite silly. And we could go this direction, which is Rick Bucher is saying that if any team were to pick up Russell Westbrook, and it would be the Miami Heat, which this goes on a couple of reasons why you want to talk about drumming up Heat news. One, it's Rick Bucher, who, the guy got catfished. I mean, it's as far as sources are concerned. So what am I doing here? And second of all, it's like, I just don't see it on a lot of fronts. Russell Westbrook is one of these guys where I do feel like most people just completely take a dump on him. A lot of basketball nerds don't like him. I do think that Russell Westbrook does have qualities that the Heat would like as far as how hard he plays, how much he cares about winning. I do think a lot of that stuff would appeal to the Miami Heat. I just don't see it as a roster fit for the Miami Heat this year. I'll give you what Bucher has to say here, where the rumor around NBA circles is that the Jazz would be willing to take Westbrook's contract and then he would get bought out. So theoretically, this isn't the Heat trading for Russell Westbrook in this scenario, which would be completely ridiculous. This would be basically Russell Westbrook's on the scrap heap. Who's going to take a chance on him? And he goes, team executives could only come up with one potential landing spot, the Miami Heat. Team president Pat Riley has a history of cultivating fiery competitive players, from Alonzo Mourning to Brian Grant to Jimmy Butler. He had hoped that Kyle Lowry would be the finishing piece to another championship caliber championship caliber team last season, but after posting the best record in the East, he was only available for 10 of 18 postseason games and looked a shell of himself. Depending on how this season goes for the Heat in general and Lowry in particular, Westbrook might be a worthwhile gamble. Quote, it makes sense, an executive from the Eastern Conference says. Miami believes it can rehabilitate anyone. All right, so let's do this under the premise that Kyle Lowry stinks up the joint this year. It would have to be really bad because a couple of reasons. I do think that from Kyle Lowry, they did not get to see that whole project fulfilled last year. And I think that probably part of the reason why the Heat are talking themselves into the run it back phase of this is because they didn't truly get to run it all the way through last year, in that Kyle Lowry missed the majority of the playoffs and Tyler Hero was not there at the end of the playoffs. So when fans are sitting here and they're upset that the Heat didn't do anything, I think that the front office probably looks back and say, well, what are the moves that we can definitely make that would make us that much better, as opposed to just health, which is a lot of the place where the Lakers are right now, because as much blame as Russell Westbrook is getting, the biggest problem that they had is that LeBron and Anthony Davis were both hurt, and that you have two guys who are the real cornerstones of your championship franchise not being available while Russell Westbrook is. The thing that's interesting about Russell Westbrook, though, is that he's still a guy, gets to the free throw line at a decent rate, not what he used to for sure. But if he would have been on I think he got to the line like five times a game last year. And I think that would have been good for third on the Heat. Now, obviously, maybe the usage is down or whatnot, but he's always been a guy who is an attacker and is tough to corral. Now, he does, oddly enough, one of the things that's pretty crazy about him is, as a guard, stinks at free throws. That's very, very strange. There's some strange things in basketball, like Jimmy Butler being an amazing free throw shooter, but for some reason being a really, really bad three-point shooter. Doesn't make sense until the playoffs, of course. Playoff Jimmy, different beast, different animal. But for Russell Westbrook, being a guy who can still attack, like normally when you get older as a player, that goes down and you need to supplement it with something else, like shooting, something that Jimmy Butler's probably going to have to do in the stage of his career. It's why you've seen him shoot like crazy in all these workouts going on this offseason. He's shooting, because he probably knows like that has to be an element that if we're going to look how you're going to maintain Jimmy Butler, more threes, less free throws during the regular season, and then maybe that the contact is an uptick because Jimmy Butler plays in such a physical style. But anyway, getting back to Westbrook, last year you look at his the counting stats on him with his he's always a monster with counting stats, like nearly 19 points a game last year, 7 assists, 7 rebounds. Like the guy will put up his numbers. That's always going to be there for him. But this is a case where he was playing on a very banged up, bad Lakers team. And can he be in a situation like Miami where he is coming to fit into a role? I don't really see a great fit with him and Jimmy Butler. And then Bam Adebayo also on the court. You're talking about 3 guys. None of them are good shooters. And Kyle Lowry, one of the things that he does provide is a spacing degree where this guy can get on a hot streak and can hit his threes, and you don't really have to worry about him, having the ball in his hands at all times. He can make an impact. He's a great screen setter. Like he is kind of an ultimate team guy in that facility. He's always trying to set his teammates up, and I think that's what this team needs. So even with Rick Bucher saying, if Kyle Lowry has this tail off and he's not who he is, even if Kyle Lowry is out there functioning physically, the fit there is just a lot more pristine. The other thing is then you're also saying if Russell Westbrook doesn't work out, we also didn't have things work out with Victor Oladipo. We also didn't have things work out with Tyler Hero. We also didn't have things work out with Gabe Vincent. And it may sound ridiculous that I'm saying I'd rather have these guys out there than Russell Westbrook, but it's just the case of Russell Westbrook doesn't seem to have any awareness of where to fit in right now. And, these are the superstars. Like this entire article compares him to a Carmelo Anthony. And I would say that even Russell Westbrook maybe plays with even a higher motor than Carmelo. The thing that was surprising about Carmelo is Carmelo just had such a pure shot and was a really good scorer at all these places that his biggest thing was more superstar attitude. Like if Carmelo would have adopted, I think, going into the waves of not being a star anymore, or being less of a star, and being more of a contributor, maybe that he wouldn't have had this break away from the game where he was just kind of ousted by everybody. But it's a tough thing, that aging superstar. The Heat in a lot of ways got lucky with how things happened with Dwayne Wade, where they really shouldn't have let Dwayne Wade go and they should have done right by their star. But the way things did work out with Dwayne Wade made that transition of him going to the bench a lot easier. He was a veteran minimum, but he was very clearly the best player on those teams his last 2 years with Miami. But one of the reasons he didn't come back, remember, he goes to Chicago, has the year, recruits Jimmy Butler, shout out D-Wade, and then the next year could have come to Miami. Could have gone to Miami and then ends up going to Cleveland because he didn't really want to come into a situation that was flush with guards. It was Dion Waiters, Josh Richardson, Justice Winslow, Goran Dragic. Where is he going to get the ball? Where is he going to get the time? And then eventually we're like, wow, that was stupid. Dion Waiters signs a long-term deal, always hurt. Josh Richardson wouldn't stop stepping out of bounds. Justice Winslow couldn't make a layup to save his life. We really need Dwayne Wade, need this thing to kind of work out here. So here he is to save the day coming off the bench and being in that role. And then the last year, the Last Dance, we all know the story. It was kind of the same deal, and you had that break that made that transition over. The thing that's interesting with Westbrook is if there was maybe like a return to OKC, would that be something that would work out for him? Maybe, but he has gone from OKC to Houston to Washington to LA, and he really hasn't sacrificed anything. He has just kind of been who he is and hasn't really seemed to find a way to fit in, like where it's probably ideal for him to be in the Tyler Hero, Victor Oladipo, 6-man, off the bench, microwave type of guy. I just can't see the Heat going in the place. Like if they were to bring in Russell Westbrook this year, something horribly wrong happened with the team. Like Kyle Lowry had a serious injury, or Tyler Hero had a huge regression, or something just catastrophic would have happened for the Heat to kind of pull that move and pull that lever of what are we going to do here? What are we going to do here? Let's go try Russell Westbrook. I just can't see it. So I think more than likely the place he goes on a minimum is like someplace that's like looking for buzz, looking for juice, looking for something. And you bring in Russell Westbrook because he does play hard, and he does really seem like, I don't, obviously with some stars, the way he plays turns off a lot of people, but it does seem like in general, people do galvanize around him and do like the guy because he shows up to all the team's press conferences and all that type of stuff. That people seem to be okay with. I think it's just the style that he plays with that people don't really seem to be too thrilled with playing with long term. And that's why he's been at one-stop destination for the last 3 years, and maybe that'll be the thing that continues through the rest of his career. I don't know. But from Miami's standpoint, fit with Jimmy Butler, bulk of guards, stage that they're at to contention, I just don't see it. I get the idea of, you think you can rehab a guy. I don't know if you could bring in that type of star power in recognition of name and what he thinks his standing is in the game, and think that that's a similar situation to Jimmy Butler, where Jimmy Butler was still a star and taking all the big shots for the Philadelphia 76ers, and you needed a guy to be the face of your organization. And I think at that time there was actually some, would the Heat trade for Russell Westbrook? Would they get in that game? And, I think there was a little bit of that. And then you could have seen it before you've been knocking on the doorstep of a championship 2 out of the last 3 years. This now just doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense to me at all.